This is Lisa Guthrie, 505 Northeast 70th Street, Seattle, Washington, 91115. And I just got awakened by some ugly, creepy cannibal zombies. This is called Green Lake Plaza Apartments. And whether you believe it or not, everybody is a gang member. Everybody is a zombie in Washington. And so, this is my security camera, and this is a closet. Didn't have a camera right here, and because I had to wait for the electricity to charge up. One phone's now down, this one's up, we'll see. And there should be nobody coming in legally. But in Washington, this is crud. This is rapidly going down in charge. I'm not happy with that. 97. Now it's charging, but it's going down. Started at 100. I'm going to watch it. I actually blew out a heater a couple weeks ago. So actually, this is electricity from another part of the room. I just woke up, and there are some Crips next door in 207 insisting that they're going to come in, and then some Crips and Bloods thinking they would come in through a crawl space. The alarm was set off, and in this building, there is a dark green area of the building, and it's frequented by gang members. It's a Seattle Housing Authority building, and they climb up via the crawl spaces, or via this green area, and it looks, even if someone didn't believe me, it's like, there's not much to not believe. There's actually a dark green door. It's like, these are areas, obviously, that are used to, look at the electrical or whatever. So, it's an area that's used for the electrical. It's not something to really figure out. But it's sort of this, you hear about it once in a while on the news. You hear about people entering through crawl spaces, or even like living in someone's closet. By the way, it stinks here. These are cannibal zombies. Somebody is eating a body or whatever, and it stinks like rotted meat. It smells. I'm the only non-cannibal, non-zombie in Washington, non-Satanist. Oh, by the way, where's my manners? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done as earth as in heaven. Please forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Actually, just trading plugins. Sometimes different plugins help. These are sick cannibals, and there is nobody left. And lately I've said it's no coincidence that the devil came knocking on the door of Washington or on other doors. Why? Well, it turns out my gross family, they were, some of them, cannibals. Turns out my sister, Dawn Blackmer, her name's significant, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Well, turns out she was a cannibal to 1959. And her father may have taken part in some cannibalism. Her husband's name is Larry Blackmer, and my half-brother's name is Michael Tedhope. They've used their construction agencies, Tedhope and Blackmer, respectively, to do home and business entry via covert methods for years. They've made them and they've enhanced them. Such as what? Trap doors, crawl spaces, in a crawl space, people actually can stay. And if enough of the room is it's sort of like you would gather in the room, so you would have more room for that crawl space. Let me check this out. 95% and falling. I'm not happy. So guess what? This one's going over there. It's not happy. It's not happy with. And it smells, and probably on video camera, by the way, you probably heard some ugly males arguing with me about coming in. And that's the secret of the males in Washington. They are so ugly, they will force their way in. And there is no sex in Washington that's not either a bunch of child molesting and other rape with your wife or whomever, or even your kid during a devil worshiping ceremony, or what else? Well, I'd say that every male in Washington is a rapist. Every last one. There is no male that's not a rapist. They are. They're all gruesome rapists. Foul, disgusting, and retarded as well. Remember, I just was awakened and I'm having to fiddle with cords. Why? Well, it's my safety. And I can't seem to fix this so that it stands up and works. This is there. There we go. And you know, there's nothing in this room that's of any value. Why? Well, you're not going to put anything in your room and worry about anything of value in a place where there's cannibal zombies. What else? You're not going to worry about furnishing anything for people who would kick open your door. Are you? You're not going to, put some flowers there. You're not going to worry about anything like that. And so slowly, well, not slowly, but over the last 7 years, my possessions have dwindled. I'm not going to furnish anything for anybody who's going to take my door. First week I was here, the door was standing open when I was gone. I've been locking my door for over 40 years. I'm 54. Another thing? Well, let's see what else. I don't cook meat. I don't cook anymore. A couple reasons. Everybody's a cannibal. So I eat a lot of raw stuff, and I don't eat meat. Oh, somebody's walking around with crossing a chain in there, or in the hall. It's not necessarily a dog cheat. These things will cheat you up. Excuse me? I'm going to use the restroom. Just tried. I could hear her. And she thinks she's talking to the security camera. Now remember, even if you didn't hear her, I'm not crazy. Why? Periscope actually has thought people were talking to them. You know, the people on Periscope. And the whore just said, the secret is Lisa's in a nursing home. Now, what's something I've talked about the gang members do quite a lot of? Falsify records. That's on here. And what's another falsification of records? It's your boyfriend. It's your husband. It's your best friend. Oh no, it's not your sister that you've been estranged from for 30 years, 20 years. It's your best sister, your best friend. They love you. Now, these people in Washington will kill over an apartment. It's not always just an apartment because they're going to chop it up and come through. And there's a whore or a buck you got in 207 as I'm talking, which has been heard on Periscope also. So, they'll literally kill for an apartment. And where's my deodorant spray? Can't stand the smell in here. And you know, you find yourself using sprays, can't stand the smell. Well, you know, where is it? These are. So people will literally kill for an apartment. They even had a very telling sign that was in the apartment. What was that sign? It was a sign with red dripping font, made to look like blood. What was it about? It was about homelessness. And so literally it was a terroristic threat with blood dripping. But the thing is, you know, 20 years ago it would have been shocking. Here now it's just sort of like, well, yeah, we know, everybody knows that. And if you pretend you don't know it, well, you know, you're in La La Land. Everybody's a cannibal zombie. They're all sick. They're all freaks. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to note that my sister, Dawn Blackmore, and her husband, Larry Blackmore, and my niece, Melissa Udd, and my brother-in-law, Michael Ted Hope, and then hillbilly cousins, well, they are cannibal zombies. But one of their favorite games, by the way, of being cannibal zombies, it's kind of like an evil zombie version of This Is Your Life. So, yet, 4 more people are playing the This Is Your Life. Now, I have to tell you that a lot of these people didn't end as an acrimonious ending. Some of it was petered out, some you break up. You don't see them 30 years later and they're going to kill you and think it's normal. These are zombies. It's like, oh, it's your best friend in junior high. He's here to kill you. It's your best friend from kindergarten. He's here to kill you too. And last night, there were 2 sets. Remember, they're cannibal zombie gang members. 2 Renees, 2 Richards. 1 Richard from when I was 27, I'm 54. 1 Richard from when I was 20 from 20 years ago. So maybe it was 24 with the other Richard, so 30 years ago. And then a Renee friend, 2. Did we end on anything but petering out? Well, 1 was mad at me, but you know, normal people don't want to kill you from 30 years ago because you wouldn't buy they and their underage boyfriend boobs. I think that was something that happened with 1 Renee. They're not going to normally want to kill you 20 years later, are they? There's lots of people they might come across that piss them off. It's called walk away, isn't it? Well, anyway, so 2 sets of Renees, 2 sets of Richards. And then, the night before that, there was Michael Jake. Richard. But you can't miss Michael Jake. Just like you can't miss some of the other things. Why? Well, I don't know if you've ever seen Pee Wee Herman. Creepy blue guy with a twisted face. Big nose. Particular big nose. It was like a white guy. Big nose, ugly guy. It's Michael Jake. 6'5" or 6'7". Just like you can't mistake people like my stepsister. Apparently, Kathy Toomey was a Crip. Rest of her family were Bloods. She's been doing cannibalism, by the way, the last 30 years. And her kids are huge from the cannibalism. 2 daughters. They look like ogresses. And what else? Eating other people's food stamps. It's a big one in Washington, where people steal food stamps. And they steal Social Security. So, that's what's going on here. Oh, and I need to make sure this is plugged in. I have enough time to sit down. I'm doing just making sure things are charged. Now there's a horror plan calling the police. What happened in Washington is that the bums in Washington, they're supported by the bad police who actually like these morons. Why? Well, it's like having their own guerrilla army to kill people and do whatever they want with. And the dirty police, don't kid yourself, they got the spoils of and alternate identities as well. And note, yes, 207 Cox Guns, he's mentally ill alone, let alone the guests that come up either in the hall or come up through the crawl space from the green areas of the building. So, they decimated 30 million people in Washington in 20 years. 30 million actually above. It's gone up, last 14 years. The killing field became quite open. And I'm not white, but they targeted whites, white-looking, semi, and warm-skinned European. Remember, whites are not the same as white-looking. It would be an ignoramus that believes they are. but you have a lot of ignoramus racists. I'm an 8th black. You have a lot of ignoramus black Nazis, quite frankly. Now, you won't hear me cursing. You won't hear me threatening you. What I'm doing, I will pray, and I will curse the zombies, and I will do my energy activities and tell you what's going on. I might even tell you what violent statement the bums are making next to me. But remember, I'm not threatening you. Evidently, one night while I was sleeping, well, somebody on Periscope didn't like what these morons were saying, and they called the police. I'm not saying he was a bright person. And another time I was up walking around and somebody else was texting one of the boogeymen and boogie women in the crawl space of the closet. And so remember, nobody should be over there. And these morons are chanting and yapping, and it's a moronic yap that you can't stand. They're mindless freaks. They're about 30 IQ. So remember, the devil came knocking. And remember, the population was down to a lot of morons anyway, because these bums freely killed anybody who they wanted to, especially the last 14 years. But there's been a covert war, but it became more overt as of 14 years. And so people killed people based on white-looking, semi-warm-skinned European, but they also killed them within those groups. They who were in those groups and tortured them, I must add, and enslaved them, based on green eyes, blue eyes, and gray eyes. What else? I'm cursing, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. And based on, also, they killed people based on the fact that they were more intelligent, they were better looking, they were talented. So you've got a lot of really ugly, retarded people running around smugly like they're now the most brilliant in the state, the prettiest, the handsomest, the most talented. They got rid of their competition. Now, why else did they kill people? Well, they killed also within those groups to obtain their property, money, and credit. And not just a credit like, oh yes, it's your check 1 month, 1 week. It was people that would keep producing. Dawn Blackmer herself is stated to have over 800 identities. Larry Blackmer might have 1,000, from what I've heard. Melissa Ugg might have 300. That's a lot of dead people that they are pretending to be. Can you imagine even keeping track of that? Something funny in Washington. So if you ever had a relative or heard of a relative that broke it off with somebody, maybe they appeared to be a little different. Have you ever seen a person where they came back differently from something? It might not be that person, especially if it's affiliated with Washington. Pass it on. You might have some missing people. And bums like my family, they're not the only bums, you know that, assumed their identity. distinguish it or not. I had this weird vision in the 90s at one of the buildings. I was like, I was envisioning a plain man and just a white male, not too tall, like about 5'8". I should stop saying like, it's improper English. I'm now thinking he had something to do with my relatives. But I had a vision of him, and I had a vision of his Social Security and someone stealing it. It wasn't anyone I knew, but there were plain males in, in housing authority. I had a feeling it was a guy who had died. Maybe I was having a vision of someone who died. I don't think it was anybody I knew at the time. I know that there was a creepy undercurrent. I also had a weird vision on Capitol Hill. When I went to Safeway at Capitol Hill, it was Safeway on John, I had a hideous vision of a woman with 2 kids, and she was blonde, and I didn't realize the significance. It was about 18 years ago. And I had a vision of her being butchered. And I don't even know if I thought of the fact they could have been cannibalizing her. I used to wonder about cannibals, and I'd think, gee, I hope they're not doing it. I'll tell you what had happened in Washington. Now, it's a smell that cannibals boast of doing, because they're retardos, and they like to sprinkle dead flesh around. One of the terrible smells of dead flesh, I'd actually smelled it for over 30 years. At the old Albertsons, there are a couple locations of Albertsons, and at Safeway. And I think, gosh, why does it smell so rotten with the shampoo? Why does it smell rotten right next to, like, the soap or the toilet paper? Rot from the butcher area where they have the meat. It shouldn't have traveled that far. And a couple times, you tell the store manager, and they're like, oh yes, there was a leak, or you assume there's a leak or something. But apparently, well, like my sister, she's been a Satanist, not necessarily a zombie, but a satanic gang member since 1959. And I believe her father had hidden cannibalism in butcher shops. Now there's somebody else who comes here. He's here now. His name is Michael Benjamin Davis Wood. Earlier, now he was in 207, and he was bragging that they were going to shoot me up with a needle, and it's his room. It's not his room. And he's a bum I've known for 30 years. He's recently become an indigent. Michael Benjamin Davis Wood. Now his relatives, David Hill and Ivana Hill, are probably here, but his mother's here. And apparently they're descendants of the Olmsted gang. Well, from what I hear, cannibalism goes back in their family in the 20s. David and Ivana Hill. And also, they've had a lot of strange inheritances, including another cousin, Aaron Wood. Well, a lot of strange inheritances in Washington,
What are they? They're other people's bank accounts sometimes. And literally everyone's involved, including, oh gosh, DSHS, Social Security. And interestingly enough, Social Security will pay people their Social Security if they're in on the killing field. What else? Well, people here will refer to people as Social Security, and you'll hear bums on the bus stating they're going to get their Social Security, and they're laughing and giggling. Guess what that is? They're calling a person Social Security. They're taking somebody else's. And you might say, how could somebody take your Social Security if they don't even look like you? Oh, well, they'll hire a stand-in too that looks like you, and they'll split the proceeds, maybe pay them. Also, you've got dirty doctors in my state that will literally lie about everything. So that's dirty doctor that you had for 30 years. All of a sudden, it's not you. And he gets a nice golf trip to Europe for $10,000, worth $10,000, $5,000 even. I'd say about 10 these days. One of the bums is chanting and now threatening England. And they're playing Alvaro. And that's what these monkeys like to threaten you with. And I mean monkeys of all the colors. Now, Alvaro is a word people have been using for slave. And so they like to do emotional blackmail, just like, your typical child molester does it on children. That's actually how the ugly, predatory men like to deal with whom they perceive will be weak and cave into their demands. They're like the child molesters in that they'll literally say, if you don't let us rape you, we're going to hurt that buddy. Remember, that's your average Washington man, and they're so ugly they have to kick in your door. Or maybe cock a machine gun, not machine gun, they threaten with machine guns, but cock a shotgun and you hear the shells and threaten to blow your head off if they don't give you, if you don't give them fellatio. It's one of the residents here, actually. It's a black Nazi moron. His mother has a bent gait. He had a blue teal and silver vehicle. He was up in 207 yapping with the other morons earlier. You had 2 cops here. They probably still are lurking. At least 1 or maybe more. And then allegedly 2 sheriffs. Now, were they doing anything illegal? No. And these retardos can't seem to get that you don't become a cop and start making your horrible wife into a cop and your retarded kid that thinks he's KGB and he's retarded. You don't make him into a cop either. Officer Bobby of the West Precinct apparently thinks you can. But that's a common sort of belief here. He was one of the moron cops that were here earlier, illegally. And like I keep saying, Officer Bobby and his ilk, they all need your help because they want to go to an institution. They want to get the state locked up, and they're going to need your help. They want not to have to worry about anything again, like thinking for themselves, and they, a lot of them dribble at both ends, so they're going to need diapers, and Officer Bobby would like to go homeless but he'd like to live in an institution and glue macaroni on cards and have all his meals and needs taken care of. He'd like your help for a permanent vacation. But so do a lot of the other morons. They all want your help with permanent vacations. And don't worry about housing anymore in Washington. Nobody needs it. They're going to chop through the door, chop through the floor. And in a lot of cases, Donna, Larry Blackmer, and Michael Tedhope help them or show them how to do it. Or they connect to people like that. Or they connect to Donna, Larry, and Michael. And that? There's nobody that's supposed to be in my closet. That's a boogeyman and a boogie woman. And they're making a kidnapping threat. And usually when there's a boogeyman threat in the closet, or even by the front door, or the other area, guess what that means? There's usually a car driving by that's no coincidence. So, by the way, if you have hits on you or you have a stalker, if you can record traffic, parked cars, entrances and exits, you're doing pretty well. Most kidnapping, if it's not in your building, a lot of times, and remember I'm no expert, but they're going to kidnap you, of course, via a vehicle. It's a lot handier. Now, in my apartment building, they're so violent, they'll threaten to lock you in the laundry room if you won't do slavery for the potty monsters, as I call them, in the building. And I've been recording the potty monsters for you. And I record the potty monsters also on Periscope, including potty monsters out of the building that are extreme. So it's a record that's out there. Like yesterday at Roosevelt Safeway. Let me tell you what happened at Roosevelt Safeway. So I go up there to, shop. And remember, it's actually rife with cannibal zombies that will drag you off. And it's a big paramilitary and black Nazi area. Remember, I'm not even white. Now, so, let's see. There's a weirdo checker, and he darts in behind me playing seizure. Seizure is a word popularly chanted by zombie gang members about stealing one's possessions. And he may have meant kidnapping, and he darted too close to me, and I had actually left a security camera application on, and I sort of said what he was doing as he did it, and he kind of backed off, obviously. And then there was the word Alvaro, which the gang members this week have been using over and over and over for about the last 3 days for the word slavery. Now, the primary gangs in Washington are Blood, Zetas, Asian Street Gang, M1, MS-13. However, there are a lot of black Crips that hide here in Washington, apparently. If you're missing your Crips, I think I found some. They're all over Seattle, including in Elizabeth Gregory home. Karen, and let me get her name right, Hundriasor. She's a Crip, and she is the Crip connection to send out Crips against you to kidnap you. Just like you'd want to know. That's one of them. There's a whore making an Eastlake kidnapping threat. Well, anyway, so I go outside, and I'm standing with my back against this brick wall with glass, and I'm not looking at the sides of me, unfortunately. And this woman comes up to me, and she darts into my unprotected right side, and she may have thrown glass, and she said, "This is for my husband." And I look up, and now she actually almost went behind me. And so she's acting like a freak. That's normal for Washington. Now, she may have thrown glass. That's actually, they do that to people that are white, light-skinned, Semite, or warm-skinned European. And if you have green eyes, blue eyes, or gray eyes, and that's another target list. Green eyes, blue eyes, gray eyes. And so she said, "This is for my husband." Well, she got told what would happen, you know. It's like back up. Then there's a freak a little ways down, and I recorded these freaks on Periscope because you get a lot of local people that'll look at those bums. And they now have to worry because gangs compete, basically. So let's say you're at the park. Let me tell you about competition. Let's say the cannibal zombie with his kids is a crip and he doesn't like Bloods, or vice versa. Oh, and there's a bum right now, by the way. He is the boogeyman of the closet plague, or behind the closet saying, "You're going to be quiet." So he's making a kidnapping threat. So I'm just showing you how quiet I will be. And one of them's Larry Blackburn. He's here to kidnap. There, that's pretty quiet. That's my indoor voice. No, anyway, and the windows are open. So anyhow, he's just an ugly old man with ugly old men and ugly, ugly, ugly friends. So anyhow, this other freak is talking about taking wallets. Interestingly enough, he's got his bus badge. I think so that the bus badge couldn't be seen. You know, like it's his pass. He's got it turned around. He turns around, so I unwittingly take a picture of the bus pass with his identity, which may or may not be even his because people are walking around with thousands of identities. One of the other bums with Larry Blackmer is not untraceable either. Larry Blackmer you can find under Blackmer Construction. And then there's a Carla Logston. It's a cheap, ugly crack hoe. She looks like a seahorse with a, a sea monster with a horse face and a long neck and a medium tan complexion. She was actually pretty dark this summer. Very dark. She even looked darker than I had known. Heard about crack turning people pretty dark. That's what I heard a black person on a talk show talking about one time. And she is a crack hoe, like many of these people. And she's not untraceable either. Anyway, so yeah, that ugly, creepy guy's talking about taking wallets. So, anyway, they're on Periscope. And people started trying to drag me off about 7 years ago when I started going to that Safeway. I haven't really frequented that Safeway, but I mean, started trying to drag me off quite heavily about 7-8 years ago. And by the way, the whole state's involved. It's a sham state, and if you tape, you have to be careful. Why? Because a lot of the managers will pretend you're the bad one. And they'll even bar you from the stores. And they did that to white Semites and warm-skinned Europeans. You know, we didn't have access to service, some of us, including 911. You get crack whores on 911 that will put words in your mouth. There's one that comes here and smokes crack and commits crimes with the others. And she'll portray that, or she'll actually put words in your mouth and state that you're in the hall. I always keep my refrigerator in the hall. How about you? The bed, too, and the toilet. And the kitchen sink. I guess that's normal to a crack hoe, isn't it? She was a crack hoe, and that's what she said. She said I was outside in the hall. And the whore comes here. So I'll bet you that crack hoe keeps her toilet in the hall and her bed and everything else. One of the boogie women in the closet just talked about a bullet. Melissa Udd is also one of the boogie women. That is Don and Larry Blackmer's daughter, Melissa Udd. And you can find all these people on social networks, including LinkedIn. So basically, my sister Dawn, and her husband, and my brother, they've been shooting people through walls and then just working, you call it work, acting with the dirty police and dirty FBI sometimes, and they'll drag away the wall and put up a new one. And at Seattle Housing Authority, they've been covering up deaths, you know, for years. And Seattle Housing Authority, I'd like you to know when there's a bum threatening about drugging me. Seattle Housing Authority has been killing people for years, and it's important to note they hire mentally ill, absolute lunatics on drugs, and instead of suppressing the crime in the buildings, they'll suppress the victim. Same with the dirty cops that are hired, sort of like a security guard that gain access to the building. Not all those dirty cops that were here, though, were security guard cops, or they call them community service officers or something. Not all of them. Like Officer Bobby, he's not even in the right precinct, which is illegal. Also, he's got complaints against him. So basically, he's shown stalking. By the way, all the relatives I've even mentioned, they're all estranged, including stepfamily. Now, was there an acrimonious split with the stepfamily? No, just lack of interest on my part. And I see why I never liked any of my family to begin with. Turns out they were gang members, well, on the way to zombie. And like I said, Kathy Toomey, my stepsister, she's an ex-stepsister, my stepfather's dead. She was a cannibal for over 30 years, and she's been eating people's food for over 30 years. That's also why her daughters turned out to be hideous ogress types. I now know why Melissa Udd is so large. Her daughters are ugly as well and fat. My sister was never under 300 pounds, and I heard that Don Blackmer stabbed a woman in the 70s for $10 worth of food stamps. Big fat Dawn needed her ice cream. Really bad, I guess. Probably, what I'm guessing, ice cream with some toppings. Chocolate sauce or caramel. There's another bum yapping, shoot you. Eric Kinzel and his deficient mongoloid family are here, including Greg Kinzel. These things are very brash, and see, it seems unbelievable. Well, you have to figure everybody's a zombie mongoloid, like one of those movies. Zomboloid. There, I just coined a new term. It's zomboloid. And they had everybody helping them, and everything's a sham in the state, including Elizabeth Gregory home. They're cannibal zombies. They cater to black Nazis and other criminals. All of these people have threatened other states and other countries. They're amassing weapons. It's important to note that they're playing with plagues. It's important to note they're playing with poisons. They're playing with very hazardous substances. And one of the whores just made a, quote, guard threat. And what do they mean by guard? They're talking about retarded, ugly freaks that would follow you around if you'd report to them. It's illegal, and nobody's allowed to follow me around. And I will report them and take pictures of them. And these shit asses will talk like they're government or police, because they're in with the dirty police, and they'll talk about warrants. So there's 3 freaks in the closet area, and one of them is now Emily Utt, an ugly whore. You'll find her on LinkedIn. Ugly with a creepy expression. And all these boasts of how educated they are and how wonderful. No. My niece, Melissa Udd, is actually special ed. They covered up for her. I noticed a lot of oddly inferior people that were sorority and fraternity, and they seemed like they were disabled mentally and not very attractive. Well, apparently it was like this gross, gruesome underground of gang member morons that were putting their kids through school. And believe me, a few professors probably went missing and got substituted or got rewarded, threatened, so forced, coerced, or rewarded to give these ugly things better grades than they deserved. So the cream of the crop in Washington, it's garbage. Absolute garbage. It's not any better than the gumwall you've heard about. Earlier, but you should have heard a variety of threats. Extortion, slavery, cutting my face, cutting my finger off, operations on the brain. There's a dirty Dr. Jaffe. He was here last night. He probably still is with his retarded son. There's usually a Deborah Layton, a flunked out nurse in 1979. Dr. Jaffe's not allowed to operate either, and you can't go to people's apartments and operate on them. Sometimes there's a chiropractor that comes here. He'll threaten to operate. They're all child molesters, murderers, rapists, torturers, Satanists. By the way, they don't just hurt people, they hurt animals. I woke up this morning because the alarm went off in the closet area, and then there was a I guess there were quite a batch of Crips in 207. At least 3 of them. And they were shouting about how they were going to come in, even though they're ugly as sin. And then one bragged that he was cutting a finger off, and I heard a groan of a female, and one of them was also yapping about his dinner. So they actually will call people groceries, chicken, stew, beef stew, poultry, what else? Corned beef, roast beef. And you can find zombies, you'll hear them talking about sustenance, nourishment, protein. They're obsessed with protein. You're going to smell fake meat, I'll call it, or animals that have been tortured, or humans that have been tortured. Like they'll do pets, and even wildlife. You'll smell even rotten cooked food at 2 in the morning, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. And there's the smell of blood everywhere. And that's why I leave this apartment, because it makes me sick. I start sneezing, and I'll sneeze myself into a nosebleed. I no longer eat meat after, well, I heard somebody being butchered, I'm quite sure. And then somebody brought in some gray meat, some weird meat at Elizabeth Gregory home. That was Sandra Katowitz. And I heard Marilyn and a few others from Elizabeth Gregory home torturing someone when I was at Aurora DSC. And it was located in this janitorial room that kind of stretched around the apartment a bit. It was on, well, it stretched from about to it was the side of the front door, bathroom, small apartment, but still. And then, evidently, behind the kitchen. And then there was, I guess, adequate crawl space to hide in on the other side. Oh, and a bum, by the way, is making an oral rape threat. He is an ugly black Nazi moron. And he is a former security guard from the Pike Place Market. And so they're making a home invasion kidnapping threat. He's a terrorist. He's boasted of killing 40 whites a day and torturing them. His lover is Officer Bobby of the West Precinct. And Officer Bobby was here earlier. Oh, Officer Bobby hasn't left yet, apparently. So, Officer Bobby's gay lover is still here, along with Officer Bobby. And Officer Bobby's wife and his son were pretending to be issuing warrants. Or acting on warrants. Remember, they can't even get the term straight either. Remember how illegal it is. What a mix. Officer Bobby, his gay lover, and his wife, and his kid in the same building. That's cozy. These are all depraved lunatics, so don't even be surprised if some situations if the wife doesn't even just, know about it and she's taping it. Part of these satanic bastards' rituals include raping victims, if you can call them rituals. You'd have to be a moron to think it's a ritual. You'd have to be a moron to want people to commit lewd, foul acts and call it a ritual. Same kind of morons like to play with bodily fluids and solids. By the way, the boogeymen and women in the hall closet are also shaking a chain. They think you're just going to walk out in the hall and say, sure, and just give up and go down to the car with a whore, including my slaver family. Am I going to? No. Nope. So basically, maybe the SWAT team will come. Then I'll leave the building. One of them is psychotically, I can hear from down below where the sound drifts up, he's psychotically talking about a UFO. Oh, and Larry's talking about, quote, blinding them. One of them's chanting, help Lisa, and then she chanted Lucifer, and then John. Now, what's one of the reasons the bums would take you on a Friday or on the weekends? Well, it's slowed down, and also they're very blasphemous. So if they can torture you and rape you on a Sunday, they feel they're consecrating you, and they feel very powerful, even though they're morons. Now, if you want to help me Yes, you can call 911 if you ever see a break-in or hear people trying to break in. I think that this is material to go to the president about, quite frankly, and, you know, write him a letter or whatever. And also, you could contact Homeland Security. You could contact FBI in another state, because everybody seems to be, whether you want to call it organically a zombie and scientifically, or if you want to call it spiritually a zombie, it happens. And don't forget to tell them, if you don't want to say zombie, you can say they're acting like zombies, and also zombie gang members. You're even going to see old ladies in my state signaling, like, oh, moving, like, this could mean cutting open your head, blinding you, cutting your mouth, you know, cutting. Even down the body could mean cutting, hanging, shooting, random. Itching is not always itching. It could be a gang sign. They'll make it more overt so you know what they're doing, but you'll see even another one. You'd see this retarded sign that morons were making, like they were putting on their headsets to talk to you. It's called I'm Listening. We won't go into any paranormal, you know, right now. The more you believe, the more I'll tell you. Well, hopefully you believe anyway. Because I need you to get rid of these people by putting them away. Time to curse zombies. I'm going to be praying in a few minutes. Also, one of the bums is chanting they spent money. This is a common... well, I woke up 14 years ago and everybody was extorting and punishing. I didn't know exactly whom they were punishing yet. But the extortion is very common, including to punish you for punishing you. You're going to, like, the premise would be, like, to make you pay. There was even a dirty cop, a North Precinct cop, that will arrest you for not being a prostitute or cooking meth. So will Officer Bobby. Oh, it's a fat ass. It looks like a sack of manure with a gored head. I believe the bitch is here. It's an old man, big fat alcoholic, ugly, thinning with like dyed brown hair. Hideously ugly. Hallucinatory, too. 1 week I kept hearing the word crudité for several days, and I ignored it. Crudité, crudité, crudité. I was like, crudité. And I was sitting here one night, hearing the word crudité, or it was in the morning. And apparently, the dirty cop thought that I had turned them all into a vegetable platter. I couldn't figure out why they'd be chanting about vegetable platter. Vegetable platter. Well, because remember, and they also alternate codes. So, crudité could mean killing you 1 second, and then it could be calling me crudité. It could be calling the gang members, but you just don't know. I'm just giving you an example of an alternating gang code. So apparently, the dirty cop said that I had turned them into crudité, a vegetable platter. Another hallucination expressed by yet another, the corpse laptop, which is probably here, or was. Well, apparently he said that I had put them all in a computer screen, actually TV screen, and years before that, a computer screen. And the crudité one, the person who hallucinated about the crudité, if you call it person, and also said one night, he said, that thing will rip off your arm. Is it your arm or leg? I think leg. Your leg. It'll rip off your arm. That thing will rip off your leg and call you up on it later. Now, I really didn't know what he was talking about, so I always use the R. Just kidding. But he was hallucinating. And yesterday, I actually got some good footage for you of a female hallucinating to some of her friends that were at least 12 foot tall. And in the video, I expressed the fact that I was concerned if she got on the bus with me, there wouldn't be any room for me. Because there were at least 3 of her friends that were, 18 feet tall, some of them. And she was pretty creepy and scary. She looked like, a girl in a horror movie with the backward music box and the xylophone and the little toy piano playing, and then some chanting or singing in the background to scare people. And she was talking to her invisible friends. And guess what? Well, the thing is, she wasn't any more insane than the rest of the state. That's one thing I did say. So I did give you, if you're wondering about, well, that's, mean to portray people in that light. I did say that it was very in a positive way. She's not any more insane than the rest of the state. And as for black Nazis, well, I'm part black and I'm not a Nazi, but the whole state's mad. Remember, they all killed smart, nice, pretty people, handsome people, talented people. They all did it. And then that's how I got stuck with all morons, ugly morons, that stink of death. I try to say something positive, but I can't. Except what I do say that's positive, you don't want to play with Satanism, you don't want to be a Satanist, and you don't want to believe that hurting people would give you magic, including eating them or drinking them. It's not going to give you magic. And the reason why the Satanist wants to spread their religion, it's a religion of destruction. If you can call it religion, I call it mental illness. It's mentally ill. and they want you to go down the tubes with them. And they think that it's like a germ, like a virus. Like another component of this is a virus. You know, stripping out the good cell, replacing it with bad. In all ways. So they think the more bad people, the less chance they have of being punished. They're so happy. They're all going to be so happy. Well, I'm telling you, I hear these people that think they're going to be so happy. They've tortured people. They think they're going to be beautiful. You and I know that they're sick. Don't we know that? I know it. I hope you know it. You're not going to be beautiful. Like one of those vampire movies where they think, oh, if they drink someone's blood, they'll be so pretty. You know they're sick. You know they are. Well, apparently I'm the only one in the state that knows that, and I will say that I've analyzed this, and it seems to be a false propaganda, that they've also put out. It's obviously false. That would be almost redundant to say false propaganda, but it's a propaganda that's put out about a false karma and false rewards. And some of the illusion or the belief system of the false rewards, you often see people who think they're beautiful and magical, and it's like, well, no, dummy, you're not beautiful and magical. It was falsely arranged. Like somebody who has good luck all week because the gang members keep slipping them 20s, or like, you know, free movie tickets, and it's like that person thinks, wow, it's been so magical, and they think, oh, hurting someone did it. No, it was arranged. And even like, I hate to admit it, someone might look better. They've got expensive makeup now. They have a nicer place to sleep. They've got a nice car. That thunk, that is the closet with the boogeymen and women saying you're gonna go. Melissa Udd. And her house has been used for a slaver house, along with her husband, Stephen Udd, for years. And by the way, I found one of her properties. It might be the Issaquah house. It was listed at $575,000, and it was listed with Stephen Udd. So even her property's on the internet. Melissa Udd is making a kidnapping threat. Oh, by the way, one of the whores that's here, she's from the North Precinct. What is it? The not North Precinct, like North. What did I say? Precinct. What is it? Lake City Food Bank. So it's called the North or the Lake City Food Bank. It comes up as that. She has a weird like she's put on an accent, like sort of a weird little accent, and she's actually told me two different stories. She told me a story about marrying an English husband, and then the story was about a Mexican husband. Last time she said, well, we're Mexican. She's here. She dyes her hair blonde. And, oh gosh, she's got a man's name. She's here. She's short. She's about 5'4". She appears very friendly, and she works on Saturdays, volunteers. I don't know if she works during the rest of the week. Well, what's her name? It's up across from the Lake City Fred Meyer, where cannibalism is so prevalent, and they'll drag you right off to butcher you. gosh, what is her name? Well, anyway, she's a cannibal zombie. And she's here. She's not fat. She's a little plain. Nothing special. Lots of sort of thick dyed blonde hair. She calls everybody friend. But she has this quaint little twang. She's here. Charlotte Lefevre's here from the Museum of Mysteries. She started out as Art Belge Chat Club, and they were affiliated with the Metaphysical Library, Seattle Metaphysical Library, and now it's become the Northwest Legends of Lore. They're affiliated with other groups such as Amateur Science, Bill Beatty's like a weird science group, and also MUFON. MUFON is ironic, and I'll tell you why. MUFON used to be known for its intelligent UFO hunters. Now, if you look at this pattern of people killing intelligent, well, guess who's involved? Those cult-like groups I've mentioned. Seattle Museum of Mysteries, and guess what? Those groups are involved in the genocide because they were able to portray that it was an alien in your walls or your basement or a ghost. And then talking about Black Ops and mixing up some X-Files conspiracy. Oops, I said X-Files. And then, you know, portraying it as the government, CIA, whatever. So they're able to cover up a lot of the genocide, I believe, via the Museum of Mystery. Sorry, I'm itching my nose, making sure I don't have my nosebleed also. Remember, I'm a sick person. I've got asthma, allergies, chemical sensitivities, chronic fatigue, and fibromyalgia, ulcers, nosebleeds. Now, back to the news and more part. Bad bag. Arm and dirty cop tried to break Officer Bobby. Why? Well, I wouldn't be a prostitute or a quick man. Anyway, so you've got Charlotte Lefevre. She's here. And her husband, or boyfriend's name is Philip Woodson. She has a daughter named Celine. She's also involved with Peter Davenport. He had the National UFO Reporting Center. Well, all of those agencies, they're all handy ways of covering up people's deaths and blaming it on aliens. Even this practice that the gang members have. Now so before you think, oh, she's crazy. Well, which is more rational? Was it an alien or was it a gang member? So, picture people that talk about alien operations and even aliens putting metal in you or methods to track you. It's not. It's gang members. How about rapes? It's gang members. There is something even more sinister. Seattle Museum of Mysteries and Bill Beatty are involved in also the gun running, the weapons amassing, and they're in on plagues and hazardous substances. A lot of these, weird science guys were bragging about hazardous substances, and if people knew what they'd been doing, like above the mini mall, they were renting an apartment for the laboratory, they would have been quite shocked. So one told me they could have that his laboratory was very volatile. He was working with volatile hazardous substances, and he gloated. He said, If only those people at the mini mall had known what I was doing. Ha ha! I'm just blown the whole thing. Am I threatening anyone? No, I'm telling you what a moron said. In so many words. Not exact quote. So I think Peter Davenport and some of the others have actually been killing people and hiding their deaths for over 30 years. And that was part of their group. They certainly, I'm sure, make meth, and also there's another substance they're probably making. My own hillbilly cousin has been bragging about chloroform kidnappings. Chloroform is outdated. So are epidurals. I don't think they're making the epidurals, but I think they're making the chloroform. My hillbilly cousin has used both to commit kidnappings according to his own boasts. Jay Luxton. So, according to what I've heard, now Charlotte Lefevre was trying to branch out into the international district. Now, it would be a stereotype to suggest that everybody's Yakuza there, which I've heard some ignoramus people portraying that everybody in the international district is Yakuza. But occasionally you do get Yakuza, and you'll have even Asians bragging that they're in Yakuza. They think that it gives them more cachet. It's like, somebody playing soprano or cop. Like something that they think has authority. From what I hear, Charlotte Lefevre is connecting with Yakuza. Terry Smith is here, formerly of the Museum of Mysteries. She and Rob, the last known address I knew, was at, which they probably moved. It was at Meridian, and they lived in these little houses that were sort of outdated and had fallen into disrepair. They were townhouses, so, basic one room, one floor, one room on the next. Maybe two. Tom Kovacs is here. just sort of resting. It's, you know, my online diary. But it's also security cam. And I do sleep, rest. One of those zombie morons is chanting about rescuing. There's a bum talking about storming in. Remember, you're going to see terrorists. This is not a false broadcast. These are terrorists. One just made a leg thread. There's a bum making a whipping threat. They've got a car. I'm going to leave the... I have car cam up. It's on Alfred. I made a Kentucky reference. Remember, they call this chicken too. They're playing Visit by Kentucky, like it's in code. They're so brilliant. Officer Bobby of the West Precinct is here. Ugly old sack of manure cops here. Officer Bobby's West Precinct. And the other thing is North. And that's often these bums will even try to say, you're going to let us up through the trap door. You're going to let us come from underneath. You're going to leave obliquely. You're going to let us in obliquely. and you're not coming in. So yeah, there will probably be a that was a boogeyman in the closet with a boogie whore, and there will undoubtedly be a vehicle driving by, and then the boogie whore, the boogie moron will say, "You're going to get into a car." There's 3 kidnapping cars. One at least is white. They like to play white as the police. It mixes and merges. Dirty cop, fake cop. You can't tell the difference. And there's a retardo playing my warrant. He doesn't have a fucking warrant. That's why he's not at the fucking front door. He's a moron. A retardo. Like the rest of the fuckers knocking on the crawl space. They just threatened England.